Today is November 6th. The Texas Rangers are World Series champs for the first time. Ke'Bryan Hayes is an official Gold Glove winner for the first time. The offseason has officially began, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I'm joined as always by my brother Jake. What's up, Jake?
How's it going, man?
The least viewed World Series, blah, 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 narrative.
Blah. Yeah.
I know that there's probably a lot of listeners that listen to our show that were not watching the World Series. You're part of that. I think that some of the numbers are fake, Jake. I think people are watching, but I get it. Not as many.
Yeah.
You think it hurts baseball that the big market teams aren't there?
I don't know. I think it hurts the ratings, I guess, but I don't know. I try not to read too much into that.
Yeah, you can't.
It was good for the game. Like the games didn't go quite as well as we had hoped, but at the same time, like
Game one was one for the
fresh.
Game one was one for the ages.
So good. So good. And then it just kind of fell off.
I don't even think it did. I mean, I think that there were some. I think as a series, like if you were just someone who was checking into the series in general, like, oh, Diamondbacks got this, cool, I'm going to watch something else. And then the next game, oh, cool, like, you know what I mean? But there were some really good games. Mm-hmm. But there were some, I wouldn't even call them sleepers. Like, they're still World Series games. And knowing that there's a game tomorrow and there was a game yesterday that, like, when you watched game 2 and you were thinking, man, the Diamondbacks had that game won, and there's still something there for me. There's still like, what if they would have pulled that off last night? We'd be looking at a 2-0 lead. You know what I mean? And then the Rangers did take over.
Yeah, and it was weird. It was after the Garcia injury. A guy that's been doing nothing but winning games for that team.
Yeah.
Just crazy, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. Go ahead.
Well, we did make it through another World Series, and that's always good. You know, I know you and I always talk about that. Don't want another Game 7 walk off.
It's literally a thing that I get nervous about. Like, I want to see a Game 7 so bad, but I'm also like, right now, Pittsburgh Pirates fans, we own the greatest home run ever hit.
Yeah.
And, you know, if somebody wants to tell you, Joe Carter, that was Game 6, it's not even there. That Game 7, that Bill Mazeroski, bro, we have that. And we don't have a lot to hang on to. I mean, we've got 5 rings. I mean, it's not like we're not, you know what I'm saying? We're fine as far as a franchise. But in our lifetime, we haven't had one. And so we don't have a lot to hold on to other than our past. And so that's why we look at it so much and it matters to us. And that home run is so important.
Yeah.
And if you have another one, like, yeah, it'd be cool. But there is part of you that's just like, nah, I want that to be. I want to at least be able to say, yeah, but we got that. You know what I mean? We got that. But yeah, I mean, Game 3 was good. It was just that 3-1 game. The pitching was really good. And really, even Game 4 had its moments that kind of got away. You know what I mean? But the fact that the Diamondbacks kind of came back late, they were still pretty far away, but I thought, man, that's important. I think they'll at least force the next game, and then nope. Nope. Big game Nate, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I thought it was a good series, not a great one. Game 1 was great. But as far as the viewership, what can I say, man? Right now, the pulse of everyone is, I'll watch it if my team's in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's the NBA at this point. Like, if it's not your team, you're not watching.
Yeah.
It's the NHL. If it's not your team, you're not watching. You know, that it used to be the World Series was on par with the Super Bowl, where if it's the World Series, you're watching either way.
Right.
But the fact that these sports, not football, have series, it's more of a commitment.
Right.
And people got things to do. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's 100% true, because even like I've been, looking at my schedule for work, and like, I'm one of the only like big sport fans at my work. And I'm like, I need to put in and get the Super Bowl off. Like, I want to be able to watch the Super Bowl. You can't do that for a World Series. I need these 7 days off.
Right. Just in case.
Like, you can't do that.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I usually kind of put a feeler out there and say like, hey, if this goes to a game 7, I'm going to do something at the house.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't go to game 7, I'm not. You know what I mean? So, you're in kind of that scenario where you're saying, can I at least get you? Because I've got some friends in town. I've got some really big baseball friends who were watching. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then I've got some guys who are just so casual. You know what I mean? They're football guys and whatnot. But I can get them into a game 7. You know what I'm saying? I can get them into that. And so I think that's kind of a thing where, you kind of rally around that final game, and you can probably get more viewership there. But to tell me that a 5-game series was so low in viewership, and how many people these days are using a VPN, you don't even have the stats on that. Like, you don't know who was watching that game. These people are hooked up to VPNs with their streaming boxes and watching on websites, and none of those people count for your numbers. It's different because for all the other ones, you don't get that.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? You just watch the Super Bowl. Everybody just watches it. You know what I mean? So the numbers are there. Not to say that the 5 World Series games would ever compare to the Super Bowl. Not in today's world. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like you said, it's because they've got this thing figured out at this point. The NFL is perfect for casual fans. It's perfect for people who have no idea what they're watching but can act like they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just there. So anyway, I'm just saying that to say there's a narrative out there, and that it's something that people are pushing when people brag about not watching the World Series. And that's what I get. That's what I hear more than anything. Baseball people bragging about not watching the World Series. You know what I'm saying? And they might not act like it's bragging, but they're bragging because they want to be part of the in crowd. And that's what they're making the in crowd seem like. This is a rabbit hole I was not planning on going down. Congratulations to the Walker, Texas Rangers. Let's move on to the next thing. Chuck Norris will be proud. Let's talk about real things. Not that that's not real, but like my little conspiracy theories might not be real. Gold Glove Awards. Key Brian Hayes. Let's back-to-back clap this thing.
Let's go.
It is about time. And that's that's the thing that everybody's saying right now. I want to stay away from using the same vocabulary. Anyway, it seems really funny, Jake, that we're all saying finally for a guy who's played 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have a 2021 where he doesn't play enough to be eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Where we all thought, yeah, but he was the best, but he wasn't eligible. Okay. Then you had a 2022 where he was clearly the best fielder in all of baseball, and Nolan Arenado gets it anyway. Mm-hmm. Now, because we've been talking about it since he was like in Double-A, we think this is absurd.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And here we are, dethroning Nolan Arenado, who won 10 straight And now it's key. And does this start a streak for him?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, once you get your first one, you've already got the uh what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, lost that word.
What word
You
are you
already got the
looking?
you kind of already got the recognition.
Okay.
The status of a Gold Glover,
Yeah.
so it makes it a little easier to win the second, third, and so on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people default to the guys who are known, right?
Yeah,
And maybe that's been happening more, or I'm sorry, maybe that's been happening less more recently. They showed the deal with like 13 and 14 guys getting their first in the last 2 years, getting their first Gold Glove. And I think there is sort of one of those things where it's kind of popular right now to take a look at what these guys are doing and actually vote for not just the easy button, but the guys who deserve the award. And
yeah,
so maybe that does bode well for him. I confess to you before we hit record that there was a guy who won a Gold Glove today that I don't ever remember hearing his name. And I pay attention to the whole league.
yeah.
And Brenton Doyle wins the Gold Glove for center field for the Rockies. And I was like, I'm sorry? Like, I had no clue who this guy was. And like, I was surprised that there was somebody who was going to win an award that I'd never heard of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, turns out he hit like 200. He played the Pirates in 2 games in a late inning defensive replacement in the middle game of the series. And he went 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Very forgettable guy at the plate this year. I think he hit like 201. Yeah, very forgettable guy. So, I don't know. There was literally a guy who won a Gold Glove that I didn't know. Anybody who won? Let's see. Who won. We're just going to do NL here, just real quick, because Carlos Santana did not. Christian Walker won his second. Gabriel Moreno still. I think that they absolutely fleeced the Blue Jays in that deal. Just absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, Christian Walker at first. The middle infield of the Cubs, Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson. They're solid. Ian Happ in left. Brenton Doyle in center. And Fernando Tatis, for all for fairness, the league leader in defensive runs saved. His move to right field has been incredible. Like, he's probably getting platinum, probably deserves platinum, either him or Key. Was phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? But he gets his in right field. Zach Wheeler, pitcher, as if that matters at all. And Ha-Sung Kim wins his first as the new utility that started last year. Who was it last year? Donovan from the Cardinals? I think so.
Maybe, yeah.
But either way.
I tell you what, I was surprised with the Tatis move just for a second. Like, I was shocked. Guy with an ego, having to move positions, and just did it flawlessly. And just went out there and played the games, man. And dude was good out there. Best move he's made.
Obviously has an absolute hose.
Yeah.
And so they said, you're going to learn right field because you're not a very good shortstop, but we love your arm. So, I mean, we could relate, right? I mean, let's pirate this thing up. I mean, we're trying to get Henry Davis to play right field. Even before that, everybody talked about O'Neal Cruz, and you're looking at 2 guys, a prime candidate to make a move like that to right field and do it successfully. So, I mean, maybe they can rally around. Maybe somebody says, look at Tatis. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe there's something that can be done for the Pirates. Obviously right now we're talking about Davis, not Cruz. Cruz right now is a shortstop. But if it ever would come that somebody would, like Xander Bogaerts, I mean, obviously he came into the picture and they were like, dude, we're moving you. But even before then, you're talking about Cronenworth and Kim, and they were trying to push him out. And I think getting a guy that was important to their team, that you would think would be important to their team.
Right.
Not to mention the suspension and all that stuff. I'm sure there's more to it. But yeah, good on him. All right. I feel like we should really spend a lot of time on Key Brian Hayes winning the Gold Glove, but it's such a thing for us to say, well, duh, he wins the Gold Glove. This is almost like, did you have a moment when you were watching that you were excited, right? But did you have a moment where you were kind of relieved? Or were you excited first and then relieved? Like, I was nervous in a way where I was like, I know he's the best.
Right.
I just need this to actually happen. You know what I mean? And there was a moment for me. I don't know if you had that feeling at all.
Just like an exhale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I was actually, I think I got excited first. And then I took a second to say, like, I'm so glad that this actually happened. But I think I clapped or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, we were kind of sitting around. Katie gives it a big cheer, and
I tell you what, the way they announced it though, man, they just flew right through them.
They fly.
They almost didn't even give you a chance, like, to get excited.
Well, who do you think starts the narrative about nobody watching baseball? ESPN. The people on Baseball Tonight, they're the only ones who care.
Yeah.
I mean, that network in general just wants baseball to go away. Because they lost all of their, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, you're going to do that? We're just going to stop covering you. You know what I mean? And it's garbage, but they're the reason, right? I mean, they're the big reason why this is even a thing.
Yeah.
And so, it's par for the course. However, you're talking about 9th to 8th. You're talking about 20 different Gold Glove awards that you have to talk about. 3 finalists at each position. The only way they could slow that thing down is have less player interviews, and I'm not sure that's the answer. You know what I mean? I think you should maybe less questions for them and shorter interviews, but I like the FaceTime for our players on ESPN. So I don't know. It is what it is, man. And when ESPN is covering something like that, you think it's going to be in front of people's faces, but you also have like a marquee Sunday night football game on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how many people are watching the Gold Glove Awards ceremony. They're mostly just looking for the feed to come by, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Key won."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to them, that's about as good as it needs to be. And that's maybe fair. I mean, it's just a Gold Glove Award. They could just release the news.
Right.
Here's the winners. Cool. You know what I mean? I don't know. Either way, Platinum now is out, and who better to tell us who the best fielder in the league is other than a ton of fans in New York who wouldn't vote for a Pirate if his name was Derek Jeter Jr. So, you know. A fan vote is the dumbest way to do any kind of notable award. It's the dumbest thing to do. And I know that you guys in particular, the people who are listening to this podcast, you guys get mad when Ben Sherrington or X name GM, whoever it is, it's not just Sherrington, right? It's any GM. When they make a comment as if they're smarter than the fans, and you get upset about it. Newsflash, they are smarter than the fans. And if you know baseball, then you may not be one of the fans that they know more than, even though that you are, because these guys, it's their job to pay attention to this stuff. They better know more than me. They better know more than me. But for us to say that like the casual baseball fan knows more than the people who have a job in the sport or a job, you know what I'm saying? Like doing, like, come on, man. Like, they should be telling us who the best player is.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be asking us. You're asking us for a popularity vote for something like the Platinum Award? Like, the Gold Glove Awards are picked by coaching staffs. That's the way it should be. You know how to figure out the Platinum Award? Who got the most votes? You just put at the bottom of the ballot, like, this is all your positions. Who's your Platinum? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to vote for this guy for Platinum. I think he's the best. You know what I mean? This is so dumb that we're even attempting to ask the fans to tell us something that you're going to put on a Hall of Fame plaque for somebody someday and say, yeah, but this guy won 5 Platinum Glove awards. Voted on by a bunch of goofballs. You know what I'm saying? Like people who don't know what they're looking at. They're like, oh, he's cute. I'm going to vote for him. Or, oh, that guy has the same shoes as me. I'm going to vote for him. You know what I'm saying? Come on. You know there are people voting like that. How about this one? He plays for my favorite team, so I'm going to vote for him. The most common vote. And guess where the people are? L.A. and New York. They're not in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Do you know how many votes Key Brian's going to get from Pittsburgh? He's going to need votes from New York and LA in order to win the Platinum Award. Guess what?
Oh, yeah.
It probably won't happen because people that live in New York are saying, Key Brian Hayes and Brenton Doyle, who the heck are those people?
I'm voting for Volpe.
I'm voting for Volpe.
Oh, did any Mets win it? I don't think any Mets were on there.
Lindor was a finalist as he is every year too. He's phenomenal. Yeah. But I don't think that there were any Mets. But either way.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous that we do fan vote for anything. And All-Star Game too. It's stupid.
I agree with you.
I think we should do a fan vote, and then I think it should be like 2% of the award. Or not any of the award, and just say on the show, this guy won Platinum. Here's who you guys thought should have won Platinum. That was fun. Now we're going to send you marketing emails for the next 2 years that you can't unsubscribe to no matter how hard you try. Thanks, Rawlings, for letting me put my email address on your voting ballot. You know how many people won't vote because of that? Anyway, I'm on a roll tonight.
You are. I'm just letting you go, man. Jeez. Off-season's beginning.
Yeah, the off season. Let's go. Let's go.
Who can keep track of all this stuff going on?
Nobody. That's why we're here. So you don't have to look up anything, and we're going to read it off to you. Here's how it goes. I'm sure you've heard it from everywhere else. We've talked about it. As soon as the World Series is over, there's 5 days. That leads us to today. We're recording this on Sunday, so actually it's Monday. So I like to use instead of today because you could be listening to this on Wednesday. So Monday leads us to Monday is like the last chance for all of those official things to happen. That's when free agents are open to everyone. So for us, that's Velasquez and McCutchen. Deadlines for all the options, which we're hearing a ton of them, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them today. Qualifying offer deadline is like 5 p.m. on Monday. So some of these guys that maybe we're interested in, we'll find out if we're even going to play ball with them or not.
Yeah.
Because if they have a qualifying offer, I'm scared to say that they may not even look at them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to lose that second round pick by signing a qualifying offer player. Maybe. I don't know. But, that's generally what you would think, right? As a Pirates fan. So anyway, Thursday officially began the offseason. Free agents dropping off the roster. Right now, like I said, exclusive talks with their teams. But for us, that's Kutch and Velasquez. On Monday, deadlines for options and opt-outs and all that stuff. For us, that's Harleen Garcia, club option for $3.25 million. More on that in just a few minutes. Qualifying offer deadline. We don't have any qualifying offer guys, so that doesn't matter. Tuesday starts the GM meetings in Scottsdale, Arizona. I don't know why it matters where they're meeting, but that's when the GM meetings start. So that'll be this week, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot. Like Tuesday to Thursday, probably going to be pretty busy, I would think. If not like actual news, there's going to be a lot of, he said, she said, this team, that team is interested in this guy. And I think that a lot of groundwork is done by your GMs and your front offices, maybe of things that will happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe there's
kinda
a little
like your
bit
off-season outlook.
Yeah, it's like okay, this is the prerequisite possibly to the winter meetings that happen come December. You know what I'm saying? There's owners meetings that come up next week, 14th through the 16th. and that is your deadline for those qualifying offer players. They've got till like 4 p.m. on the 14th to accept. So you might not hear anything from those guys. Once they've been offered a qualifying offer, you won't hear anything until they're right at that deadline. Usually it's like, here's everybody that accepted and declined and what that means and stuff like that. Obviously, not very many people accept. That's also the Rule 5. So next week, I'm sure we'll have Rule 5 conversations, and owners will be voting on the A's and all that stuff. Who cares? Contracts tendered, arbitration eligible players, and all that stuff on the 17th. So you have a kind of an idea of what we're going to talk about next week, and go. And the winter meetings are December 3rd, so that's going to be obviously a busy week. And then it goes from there, which amateur draft and Rule 5 draft, amateur draft lottery and the Rule 5 draft happen on winter meetings and all that stuff. So, exciting, man. It's now the off season, and like you think that, you watch baseball all summer and you're like, well, now it's the off season, so I guess it's wait. But like, dude, the off season has really become such an interesting because of the way that they have their calendar and their timeline and all those things. Like, it's really interesting to follow along. And for a team like the Pirates, we've went through 4 years of a rebuild. You and I are in the camp that expects this team to be better next year. You expect to see a better team on the field, and this offseason is critical for Ben Cherington and the Pirates moving forward. This is a critical offseason. And
100%.
And you and I were very discouraged looking through this free agent class and where are they going to even do, these moves and that. Well, there's information on that. There's some guys that are available that maybe weren't going to be, and there's, questions about qualifying offers and things like that I don't know. Let's get into it. But first, let's talk about the moves the Pirates already made, because it seemed to come quick and a few surprises in there. So let's get into them. Cody Bolton traded to Seattle for cash. I would imagine that's a waiver claim, and they just worked out a trade for it.
Right.
Tucupita Marcano claimed off waivers by San Diego, going back to the Padres system. Do you want to read them all and then talk? You want to just go through this thing? Let's have conversations, because Tucupita Marcano, I feel like, deserves a conversation here.
Yeah, man. I thought he was picking up a little bit of traction there, and then the injury just completely derailed his Pirates tenure. Like, just screeching halt.
And you think it has a lot to do with that? I mean, it's a logjam. You've got to make moves
really
off of these second base options. The thing is, we've talked about this since the beginning of this season, that someone needs to step up in this position. And now two of them, Marcano and Castro, are just no longer here. Right? One of them possibly on his way out. Maybe not. I mean, I can't imagine. Okay. So I know that this is going to become something, and we already went down this path on a previous show, but Tucupita Marcano is a better baseball player than G1 Bae. And Bae got all the opportunities. Marcano got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, for my money, if I'm picking one, I'm picking Marcano, which leads me to believe they're not picking either one of them. Now, I can't believe that, right? I'm saying if I would be making decisions, but I know that they gave him every opportunity, deserving or not.
Yeah.
He kept getting opportunities. Nick Gonzalez, a guy who did not. Like, Bae was allowed to struggle. And Gonzalez was not. He was not given an opportunity to struggle. And I think that's, they would say Castro did too. He was given an opportunity to struggle for a while.
Yeah.
When he just could not hit left-handed, they made a move. And, I don't know, man. I don't know what this offseason will show, but I got to believe that second base is going to be what second base is. it's going to be another race in 24, and that might be okay. We'll have plenty of time to go. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But the Marcano thing did surprise me a little bit.
Yeah.
Alfonso Rivas claimed off waivers by Cleveland. Surprise there?
I know it is for you. I mean, you were ready to roll. Like, not as him as your first baseman,
No.
but until we got somebody anyway.
That was my thing. Until you get somebody. Because now you don't. You just don't have anyone.
Yeah.
So now
you have to get
somebody, which means you may have to overpay. Oh, you would have to overpay anyway, because you don't want to go out there with Rivas as your guy, regardless. You don't want that. But he has two options. You know what I'm saying? Just imagine like if you have him and you make a move and he's still there because you didn't make any other moves and you don't have to move him, somebody gets hurt. I'd rather have him to go to than, who? You know what I'm saying? Like, who else you going to go with at this point? I mean, you're just going to not go with a platoon, and Triolo or Connor Joe's going to get every day there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And quite frankly, I don't know. Maybe it's fine. I'm not upset about it by any means.
Right. Yeah.
He's likely not going to see a lot of time. My guess is Cleveland at some point puts him on waivers. You know what I'm saying? And maybe he bounces around a little bit, or maybe he just clears and they've got depth. I don't know. But Vinny Capra claimed off waivers by Milwaukee. I think this one surprised me a little bit because I just would assume that everybody would say no thanks. You know what I'm saying? Just where he's at right now. But he put up some decent numbers in AAA. It's not worth a guy. It's a guy that's at least worth saying like, no, give him a shot. Let's bring him in here. You know what I mean? You know how the waivers go in the offseason, man. If you've got a spot, you'll claim just about anyone.
Yeah.
Miguel Andujar placed on waivers. We don't have an answer on him yet, but he's the other position player in this mix, and I'm not surprised. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. I mean, being that he was due to make about $2 million, I wouldn't put it past him to sign him to a minor league deal, eventually, or just passes through waivers and we'd keep him or whatever.
Yeah. Do you think that he clears? I mean, this is my guess is that if he does clear, he's released. I think it's, you know what I mean? He's going to elect free agency anyway. He doesn't have to, right? He will elect free agency for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see maybe. For me, it's not worth it. I mean, we signed him to a $1 million contract last year. You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna want $2 million. He's gonna go after it. I don't see him signing a minor league deal unless it's worth $2 million or even $1 million. You know what I mean? Yeah. But to me, it's a no-brainer. I just know that you have said that, man, maybe he is figuring something out. You know what I mean? So I didn't know if...
I mean, look at a guy like Christian Walker. I mean, guy that got passed around and passed up on, and then ends up doing something.
Right. Yeah, you just never know.
Right.
On the pitching side, Yuri De Los Santos placed on waivers. 2 minor league options left, and this one was another surprising one.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that you thought, pitching pretty well coming up, nice piece out of the bullpen. Well, then we find out why they passed up on it. The injury.
No, De Los Santos. I'm not sure.
Oh wait, I thought you were talking about Perdomo.
No. De Los Santos.
Okay. I'm sorry. I misheard, and I read notes. I went to the guy after Andujar on the notes.
I skipped Yuri De Los Santos to stay on position players.
Gotcha.
So Yuri De Los Santos,
Still,
with 2 minor league options.
Right. He's got 2 options left. Guy that was figuring some things out.
And this is a guy who, like, as he was coming up, we were saying, like, this guy has a possibility to be a closer at some point.
Yeah.
Like, he felt like a couple of years ago, we were like, this guy could really, or I guess last year, you know what I'm saying? He could work his way into the back end of this thing, and then injured a couple times. And it's surprising to me when you've got guys like Thomas Hatch on your roster that this is the guy that, if you're just trying to make room, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And maybe there's more to come, but I don't get it. Maybe they think he'll clear. I can't imagine.
Right. I mean, he's good enough to be in a bullpen somewhere.
So now on to Perdomo, which is the thing and that we do. Like, he has no minor league options left. To me, I think a lot of people were saying he's in my bullpen. I'm going into the year with him in my bullpen so long as he's healthy. Turns out he will not be healthy. Jason Mackey reported Saturday that he had Tommy John surgery last month. He's going to miss the 2024 season in its entirety, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So this is a no-brainer at that point. Yeah, you're going to move on. You're not going to hang on to that through the offseason. If you got through the offseason, then yes, you'd hang on to him. But the Pirates just aren't going to be able to do that right now.
Right.
At least I don't think. Maybe you could. I don't know. And then we talked about Harleen Garcia's option. It was declined. That's as expected. As we said it would. He's a free agent. He's off the 40-man roster, which is now at 37 players. So we've got room for 3 players at this point, which brings me back to Yuri De Los Santos and even Angel Perdomo. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Thomas Hatch, guys. What are we doing? What are we doing with Thomas Hatch? I just don't know. So there has to be something else on De Los Santos as well. And maybe I've just completely missed it. So if you guys know, let us know. Because we don't know. We don't know. All right. So moving forward, 37 guys. All these guys are going to become available. Who's all these guys? We talked about a lot of people in the last probably couple shows, right? Because we talked about pitching and then we talked about maybe first base. And, you kind of going into it, you were a little bit discouraged in ways. Who's going to be available, who's not. Well, all of that is starting to come out. And so, I mean, just take a look around these guys. Just notable guys here. Cody Bellinger. Not a surprise. He declines his option. $12.5 million. He's going to make a lot more than that. So he's going to receive $5 million right out of the gate from the Cubs. First thought there is, dude, what if? Now, we're not going to play ball in this. I don't think.
No.
But what if? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's an option in center field as well. It just would be. But they're going to make a qualifying offer on him. I think that's kind of a guy that if you are playing ball, boy, I'd give up a second-round pick. But then again, it's also a guy who's like, yeah, he's proven, man. He's been really good. Yeah, he's also proven that he's been bad. So it's really just tough. But anyway, he's not going to play for the Cubs, so that's good. At least it doesn't seem that way. This is just a note here. I mean, this isn't of interest, right? Joey Votto's option was declined by the Reds, which is obvious. It was $20 million. They will buy him out for $7 million. They posted a note essentially saying they can't give him the playing time he deserves, which my thought process was they're going to decline his option. They're going to buy him out for $7 million. They're going to sign him for $1 million. He makes $8 million this year. Seems reasonable. He finishes his career with the Reds. That's not what it sounds like.
Yeah, no. It's crazy to think about Joey Votto playing for anybody else, but doesn't seem like it's going to be the Reds anymore.
Yeah, they said something to Votto. They were like, hey, how's it feel? And he's like, well, I mean, I hit 200 the last 2 seasons, so it's not surprising they don't want to pay me $20 million.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was kind of like, I'd like to work something out. And then they posted that, and it was like, yeah, we're not working anything out, dude.
Yeah.
Now, apparently there's been some, hey, the door's not closed, but it's unlikely.
Right.
So really interesting. this is one of those weird scenarios where this guy played 17 seasons. Possible Hall of Famer, not going down that path right now. Possible Hall of Famer. And you could say, here's a guy who played his whole career in one city because he could hang it up.
Yeah.
He's not as good. He's not good. But yet he wants one more season.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me that this is how it will happen, where I think it is such a rare thing and such a cool thing to be able to say, I did it all with that team. As close as McCutchen is to Pirate fans, he can't even say that. You know what I mean? And you had the contract to do it, and you played until you were 40. You could just walk away.
Yeah.
It's not the money. I don't know what you're chasing. You wanted to go back to the Reds, so you're not chasing a ring. You know what I mean?
Right.
Super interesting. Anyway, Joey Votto, great career. Apparently it's not over. Yeah, whatever. I know a lot of you hate him anyway, so it's fine. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of these things. I see a typo now. I said White 6. That's pretty fun.
Oh.
Padres declined their $16 million option on Nick Martinez. He also declined the $8 million option that was on his side. Nick Martinez is available. Kind of an interesting player, maybe back of the rotation type guy, has also worked out of the bullpen a little bit. So possibly like one of those swing guys, probably find him somewhere in the middle of 16 to 8 million, maybe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Might be an interesting player that the Pirates could talk to. I think maybe. I don't know. White Sox declined the club option for Tim Anderson. I guess some of these are just notable players, right? $14 million for Tim Anderson, and they declined it. Like that whole clubhouse is a wreck.
Yeah.
That whole thing. And it seems to be like, as much as the culture problems that they were having there, it's no question that he's around all of it.
Yeah.
It's no question. Well, there's little question because I don't know.
Right.
But
yeah,
it's pretty obvious, right? I mean, it seems like he's a problem.
Right.
So don't go after Tim Anderson. We don't need clubhouse problems. He's a guy to stay away from.
Sir.
Now, an interesting one is Eduardo Rodriguez opting out of the Tigers contract, 3 years, $49 million. I guess he could possibly get a qualifying offer that would made him there, but he seems like a guy who maybe, we know he wants to be East Coast, but maybe even prefers to be kind of smaller market. I mean, the Tigers are ish, you know what I mean? Like right now, because they're not good, he's small market, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Interesting there. As far as in division things, Stroman opts out of $21 million with the Cubs. Really strange. To get 21, I imagine he'll get more than that, but like I'm not sure that he should. Wade Miley declines mutual option with the Brewers, so he's going to go. I mean, he's 37, 38 years old, but he's still effective. He's only going to make $10 million. He opts out, getting out of Milwaukee. Who else is the in division thing? That looks like it's really it. A couple other pitchers. Michael Wacha was his contract was declined. It's probably not really that interesting. He still could get his player side of it, but essentially he's not getting paid a lot. Sean Manaea, we've talked about him for a couple of years now. He's now a bounce back type candidate. He declined 12.5 to stay with San Francisco. That's kind of interesting. But weren't they putting him in the bullpen and everything? Like, I feel like he wants to start. That seems like a good way to say, I'll take less money to start. You know what I mean? So that could be an option because he's a left-hander. Left-handers could fare well in Pittsburgh. Josh Bell, old friend, he exercised his options. He's staying with the Marlins, but Jorge Soler declined his. So kind of interesting there. Another pitcher that is worth a look. Seth Lugo declined a player option to stay in San Diego for $7.5 million. Eligible for qualifying offer, but man, I don't see that happening. So we've got a couple new names that Nick Martinez, Seth Lugo, Sean Manaea, I'm specifically saying that are kind of those like back of the rotation, Jack Flaherty type. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe we take a 1 or 2 year deal on this guy, like we've done with some guys. That's Eduardo Rodriguez would be more like, hey, he got our number 2 now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we got a big starter, and he's a lefty, and that'd be great. You know what I'm saying? But once again, that's going to be qualifying offer dependent. But 2 guys that are really interesting are the Japanese right-hander Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is officially approved, that the whole approval process to be posted 45 days. He'll be posted. You got to pay the posting fee and then sign your contract like we did with Jung Ho Gung kind of thing. 25 years old, 7 seasons from 18 to 24 in the NPB, 172 ERA. He's a real deal, man. And I know that there's a lot of teams interested. Is this something that you think that maybe the Pirates could get involved with? It's really hard for Japanese players too, because they like to be on a coast.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think most of the time. But I don't know.
I mean, it would be so. I think it's something that you could play around. I mean,
it usually doesn't cost as much as a guy like Aaron Nola would. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, especially, and there's obviously. Well, what did Shohei? What did he get when he came over? And I don't think it's going to be the numbers that like Aaron Nola's going to get.
No.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think we could definitely play in the market. It's just going to be whether or not
It's
you can wine and dine him enough. If it's a good fit, because
Yeah.
you gotta convince them that your team is good enough.
Right.
So and it's going to be kind of hard for the Pirates to do right now. You know, coming off the year we just had. Yes, we showed signs of life and showed improvement, but is that enough to entice somebody like that doesn't really know?
Right. On that same note, Cuban right-hander Yariel Rodriguez, he's been declared a free agent by MLB. So he's a Cuban guy. He has spent the last 3 years also in Japan, and he's been pitching as a reliever there. But at the WBC, pitched for Cuba, and he was a starter. And then after the WBC, he just didn't go back to Japan, I guess is the story. And so they officialed his release and all of that. So he was basically saying like, no, I just want to go to MLB now. So what is he? I don't have his age here. I think he's like 27, 28, somewhere around there. Did a lot of, there's a scout, Francis Romero, that looks like that's who was reporting a lot of this stuff, saying that the Pirates are one of 10 teams to be the strongest candidates to sign him. Now, there's all kinds of teams on there. The Yankees are included on that. Yeah. I think the Dodgers are included on that 10 teams. It's kind of interesting that the Pirates were in that, but that, they are listed there. He did some tryouts in the Dominican Republic. And all these teams were there. 94 to 97, good curve, good slider kind of thing. According to Romero and those he consulted, they believe a multi-year contract in like the $40 to $70 million range. So obviously not too far. If the Pirates were making a push and they wanted to go after a guy, you could go after a guy like this for, anywhere between 10 to 15 million AAV if you think he's going to be really good. And apparently the Pirates do. I mean, if they're one of the 10 strongest teams or strongest candidates to sign him. So another interesting pitcher that maybe a guy that we just kind of weren't thinking of right out of the gate that could be an option.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to slot right into like 2 or 3 in the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what other moves that are made, but yeah, you could definitely see something like that happen. I mean, if he works out, you're talking about a top end, 2 or 3 guy who, you know what I mean, like could be really important, in the next 3 to 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on whatever that contract could look like. Could be really interesting, and somebody that, if you could go into this and start saying like, yeah, it looked like there's really not many options for this team to really play in the market, and you're kind of falling yourself back from those bigger names like Aaron Nola, which seems like Philly really is going to push to keep Aaron Nola there.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, we're not even talking Shohei. Who knows if he even pitches again? I'm not thinking of the other guy at the top of this stuff. Just drawing a complete blank.
Montgomery,
and the Blake Snell. You know what I'm saying? Like those kind of guys. The other dude that pitched in the postseason too. I guess Sonny Gray, but we don't really know what his status is yet either.
Right.
As far as qualifying offer and things like that. But either way, like those types of guys that are going to be available, and it's kind of like, yeah, we're, there might not be many options. Well, now all of a sudden there's an Eduardo Rodriguez who, once that field starts to get bigger, you know what I'm saying? You start to realize like, okay, there's some guys out there. We talked about Giolito. I still really like that option. Now we're looking at Rodriguez. We've got Rodriguez. There's 2 Rodriguez. Yamamoto, who's, is that a possibility? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's all these guys now who it's like, hey, you can actually, and now it's more than just Jack Flaherty in the back end. You've got these other guys that we brought up. You've got Wade Miley even. I mean, I know he's old, but he's still an effective pitcher. You just don't know. And he's a left-hander, and you know what I mean? He knows our division. He's played with teams in our division. So I don't know. To me, it seems a little more interesting now to see how this unfolds and who the Pirates end up liking, and Sherrington and his crew ends up liking and kind of going after. This does seem really interesting. Even saying that Marcus Stroman helps muddy that field, right? And even though it might drive certain things up and all that stuff, a lot of times those kind of happen where the more you have, the more you can kind of laser focus in on maybe the guy you like, or maybe the guy in your price range who might be waiting for someone else. And I hate to always say that, but like, obviously we're not playing with the biggest contracts. To be honest with you, I think it'd be foolish to.
Right.
But, obviously there's not. I know that the Pirates have money to spend. It's obviously not as much as the Yankees do. Like, you're kidding yourself if you think we have the same money that the Yankees do. Yes, there's more money than what we've spent. I'm not arguing that. But you're lying to yourself if you think we have the same money as New York. We don't. That's just the fact of it. So you can't play there. That doesn't mean you can't build a championship team. That doesn't mean that you can't have a starting rotation like we had in 13 and 15, where we actually had really good pitching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was good.
Yeah, which the Eduardo Rodriguez would be like almost like bringing in a Francisco Liriano. A good.
I don't think so.
No?
Liriano was a bit of a reclamation dude.
Well,
he had to
true.
revive things here. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez is really good. And being a lefty coming into PNC makes it even more intriguing. And I think that he's better than that. I think even Burnett, when he came in, wasn't coming off of electric seasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it would be a bigger deal even than that. I don't know that he would be much better than those guys because they were so good, right? So I'm not saying that, but like coming into it, you were like, Liriano, okay, I see that. Same thing with Quintana. You're like, but is he going to be a bullpen or starter? You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of felt like hopefully it works out. He was great. Now, Liriano stuck around a little bit longer, and that was a bit of a different thing, but like, I don't know. It's hard to tell really who to compare it to from those teams because we didn't really bring in You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. J Hap, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like even then, it was we fixed something,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, not the same situation. But it's going to be hard to believe. If something like that happens, it would be very hard to believe. We'd be very excited.
Oh yeah.
However, I'm holding them a little bit more to stuff like this. I want to see them make a big move. We want this 24 needs to be. I mean, you remember Burnett came in 12. Now, like I said, Burnett came in 12, and it pushed us to a certain point. It was 13 when they busted out. So you're allowed to make those moves the year before, and we didn't do that. I mean, McCutcheon, Santana, say what you want. We made some moves that were better, which is kind of what that was. But then it was Russell Martin coming in at 13. You know what I'm saying? It was, they made some pushes. They did, and obviously what they did back in 13, I think if you'd ask a lot of Pirate fans, we'd say probably not enough. Like I wanted more. It worked out for the Pirates, but it doesn't all, you know what I'm saying? You do want,
Right.
And I think in today's game, you do want something a little bit more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be really interesting to see where they go, and it all starts this week, man. It all starts this week. Try to keep up. I don't know. We're gonna react to what we can react to, but to me, I think the off season's a fun time. I'm looking forward to.
Sure.
And it's more fun when you're optimistic because you know that this is the blueprint, right? It's 4 years. And then you start making your surge, right? So if we're looking at, let's go Baltimore. I mean, it's kind of hard to say it this way because Baltimore, I mean, they were the top team in the American League. Everything worked out for them.
Yeah, it's not every day you hit on that many prospects.
No. Well, and not only that, but like their pitching staff was okay. You know what I'm saying? And I mean... And that's why, the playoffs, everybody said, I don't really know how they'll do. You know what I mean? They're a good team. They're still there. They got but last year it was like just missed. You know what I'm saying? And then in 23, it was obviously it was a huge surge, but they were a team. They were a competitive or a competitor going after the division. And so when you look at the blueprint, and that's the way it's gone in all of these rebuilds that we've looked at on this show, is it's 4 years, and we did better in our fourth year than most of these teams. That doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't, because I really believe that the fourth year is what the fourth year is. Doesn't matter if you won a lot or not. What matters is that what have you been doing during this time? And hopefully we start to see the fruits of what we've been doing. That's the hope. You hope that guys like Nick Gonzalez are going to start showing up. You know what I'm saying? You hope that, because what we've seen so far, he's not going to be what we need.
Right.
You just hope to see that start to happen. And so those are the things that we're going to be watching for as we play the season. But you expect to see the Pirates get to a winning record. Let's just start there. And you expect to see them messing around with that wild card now that there's more teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the next year after that, you're saying, all right, it's this division now. You know what I'm saying? Like now we've got our, we're running now. Let's go after the division. So there's a little bit of excitement there. And they've got to come through on it. I mean, we heard Sherrington say, I've got to do my job. Yeah. We've been generous.
Yeah.
With our leash, right? We've been generous, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I'm totally bought in, but it's because do your time. There's an expectation here. And here we are on the cusp of it's time for him to show up.
Yeah.
And it's time for his boss's boss, I guess, is how it goes. I don't really know the hierarchy of it, but it's time for Bob Nutting to open it up and say, all right, go.
Yeah.
And all it needs is to, I know he doesn't know baseball, and it's different in a lot of cities when your owner knows baseball or he doesn't. but I guess he has to believe in what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he knows what it means to believe in what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know if he knows, but the idea is that, like, hey, if he's going to execute his plan, you got to let him spend some money now.
Yeah.
So let's see if that execution happens.
You don't have to go crazy.
No, don't go out and be the Padres and mess everything up. And now they're taking out loans before the season's over because they can't afford to pay their payroll. What a mess.
Yeah. It's crazy, man, for sure.
You have any closing thoughts here? I mean, this is this is kind of the first. This is kind of the doors open. We've covered this little thing that we've covered. Now I think moving forward, it's going to be a little more focused on what's actually happening, right?
Mm-hmm. Buckle up.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't even have to think about what we're going to talk about every week, because every single week we're going to have something to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be great. What an exciting time that would be. I'm not going to hold my breath, but at the same time, there's a bit of expectation. Sorry, yeah. I don't want to be redundant. I've said what I've said, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
But you got anything else there? You know, anything moving in, anything that I skipped over or I didn't say, or any names? I don't know. I mean, now's not the time, but
yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's just keep that hope alive, guys. I mean, shoot, there's a lot of stuff that can be done this off season. You know, I mean, more names keep popping up. Saw Hector Neris opted out. One we didn't mention could be a bullpen arm, but
we're letting bullpen arms go. So apparently we don't need any. Apparently we don't need bullpen arms.
They're going to have a 1-point ERA, then we'll take them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Not really much this week other than, like I said, GM meetings going on this week. I think you're going to see the qualifying offer stuff comes out, so you know who's got one, who doesn't. Stuff like that. Other than that, I don't really know. I mean, we're going to get answers on some of these waiver claims. It's not until the next week that the rest of those awards go out. Rookie of the Year, Manager, Cy Young, MVP. I don't think we have anybody really in the running for anything this year. So it feels like it's just going to be like, hey, great job. You did that thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we did some things on that. So maybe we'll pull up from the archives what we thought who was going to do what, and then see how terribly wrong we were. And if we have nothing else to talk about.
Right.
You know. But other than that, everything else, like, we're going to get an opportunity to talk about them as the time comes. 37 guys on the 40-man roster. Anything can happen now, man. Anything can happen. Everything opens up Monday. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to play some music.
Hopefully be fun. Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to remain optimistic because that's what we like to do. And, we'll see. I'm totally fine being like, I'm optimistic, and then saying you didn't do good enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go Bucks.
Let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!